Hey, it's Kevin DeWitch here. Welcome to another tip, trick, or technique session. In this session, we're going to talk about unmasking the bass using plugins. So firstly, if you are new to my channel, new to my videos, and you like what you see here, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So unmasking the bass using plugins. So I've done a couple of videos, I think, already on unmasking the bass. I've used different techniques in each one of them. I think one was EQ, one was using sidechain, and this one is using specialized plugins to do sort of a function like that, or at least me using the plugins techniques to do this function. So if you haven't watched the other ones, unmasking the bass is really about making sure that, our low elements like our bass guitar, our kick, are having their place in the mix, and neither of them is hiding or masking the other one, and they're both getting their spot. So you can hear both of them and they're both adding to the song. So this is about making sure that neither one is hiding the other. And in the videos, I'm using different techniques. Okay, so this one's about plugins, which we'll just get into it, and I'll show you how it's done now. With this one here, we're more looking at sort of ducking or similar approach to like sidechain compression, but without actually using the intelligence of sidechain compression. So sidechain compression, we basically look at the kick drum or whatever instrument. For instance, we'll say the kick drum. And every time the kick drum hits, our compressor responds and reduces the volume of the bass guitar. So when we do it with plugins, because we're doing a very simple approach, we are not going to respond every time the kick hits. It's not analyzing the kick at all, even though I'm sure there's plugins that will do that for you. What we're doing here is we're just basing it on the tempo of the song now. So we're going to just assume that the kick is going to hit on beat in a tempo, and we're going to do some sort of reduction in our bass guitar in time with the tempo. So again, I'm going to show you two plugins. So the first one we're going to go through is a extremely simple one. It is so simple that it has one knob, and it's called One Knob. It's called One Knob Pumper by Waves. Now, it does actually have a couple other settings, but the general concept is one knob. And what we do is we set the rate. Okay, so we have to make sure that we have our tempo set correctly in our song. If we don't have the tempo set correctly, or the song is not recorded to a click, or it's not in time, this is not going to obviously work, because these plugins are basing what they're doing on the tempo. So we set our rate, so we can change that to whatever value we want based on the tempo. So if we say quarter notes, and then we'll just bring it down to 0, we also have an offset, so we can do it at a different phase of the beat, but we'll look at that in a minute. So the plugins are off at the moment, and this is what we have. Now, the drum track that I have in this song is a combined drum track, so I cannot mute the other parts of the drum and just have the kick going. So we're just going to have to go with that approach, because it's the unlimited with what I can do with that. But what we're looking at here is anyway what it does to the bass guitar, because the bass is actually, this plugin, it doesn't care what the kick or the drums are doing. As I said, it's just looking at the tempo. So we turn the plugin on, and we set our rate to a value that we like. So at the moment we've got quarter notes, so we're going to hit on every beat, but we might change that depending on the song. And then we just wind up this knob until we get to the value that we like. But I'll take it all the way up so you can hear what it's doing, and then bring it back down to a level that we like. So obviously when I set it to full, you can even see by the circle around the knob what it's doing. And you can hear it is literally pumping the bass full on off. Now if we change the offset, now obviously that's extremely unnatural and we would not do that. Well, you might do that in, this is a common tool that you could use in EDM tracks and things like that if you want to get that pumping effect across your song in a tempo. Obviously for a real rock sort of song with a bass and drums, we're not going to do that. So let's wind it down. And if we just play the bass by itself so you can hear the effect. And you can see what it's doing on the ring here as I change the rate. So just a nice little low bit of pumping there may be enough. Now you'll hear that the kick here has a couple of notes in between. So we're obviously not doing any ducking on those notes. So this is what I'm saying. This is not necessarily a perfect approach, but it's a simple approach. So we've got a plugin like this. And as I said, extremely simple, basically one knob and a couple of things here. And just dial it into where you want it. Now the other one we've got is a plugin called VolumeShaper by Cableguys. And this one's a lot more powerful, but the same approach applies. So if I just dial up this bass sidechain here, the difference with this one is that we can actually sort of multi-band. So we can have it set to duck at a rate. So at the moment we've got it like it's set to sync to the beat, or this one here we can actually do it to different things, but we've got it set to sync to the beat. And again, I've got it to quarter notes. And we can change the mix value and everything in this. We can change the shape of the waveform. We can do a lot of different settings here, weird effects, all that sort of stuff. But in this case here, we've got also these bands. So we can determine which one we want to dip. So in this case here, we might do nothing in this mid band, but only do the ducking in the low band. And we could actually change where this value is by dragging it up and down. And that way it can sound a lot more natural. So if we turn it on, so you can see as an example what it's doing already. and it's just ducking this low one. It's doing nothing to this top end one here. So if I pull it all the way up, you can hear what it's actually doing a lot more. But then I could play with the mix setting here as well. But this is where I'm saying you could get a lot more natural, because you could say the kick drum is actually sort of sitting fairly low. Say it's below 150 or even below 100. So we only need to worry about ducking our bass out of that range below 150. So if we do that, even with 100% mix, the bass still sounds very natural. So let's just put the bass by itself. Because you're not ducking any of the top end of the bass, and it's not required in this song because we don't need that to get out of the way of the kick, but we just do with the low end. So again, this plugin can be very powerful from that point, even to the point that it can give you more control than what we can do when we use side chains and things like that, because it has this extra functionality. So this is a very good plugin. Definitely check this one out, because you can do a lot with this, and you're not limited to just this. Obviously, this plugin can do a lot more. But you've got lots of different shapes and settings here. But what you can also do, instead of having a duck all the way down, or let's say you could say this slope here is just not sharp enough, you can actually draw your own shapes. So you could say, I want to go that sharp. But then you might also say, okay, but I don't really want it to go all the way down. So I don't want it to duck to silence. I just want to duck it a little bit. So this way you're doing a little bit of ducking, but you're not ducking it to silence. So again, it sounds a lot more natural. So we've done that by changing the shape of our waveform here. And we have the ability to change this to anyhow we want. So in this case here, we've got a few other settings that we can play with. This is obviously not a plugin run through here, but we can expand this to get really in close to our waveform. We can even click on this little solo button here. And then when we actually play a bass, we can click on one or the other to hear what each of the bands sounds like. And that way you can adjust your setting to suit. Now, this is not necessarily a song that actually needs the bass unmasked, but I'm just trying to give you an example here of what you could do in regards to this. So you can see there's some very powerful settings you can use in these plugins, and they can be quite simple. Turn them on and leave them. As I said, the disadvantage is they don't actually follow the kick drum. They're basically following the tempo of the song. So if your kick drum is doing lots of notes on different beats or different things like that, and not always on the quarter note or on the half note, depending on how you set this up, then there will be times that the kick will play that the bass is not being ducked at that time. So it's not the perfect setup, but it is a simple way to do it, and it's definitely a technique that you could have a look at and play with. So there you go. That is unmasking the bass using plugins. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Out of the ones, have you watched all of the ones about unmasking the bass? Do you use these techniques in your mix? Which one do you prefer? Do you attempt to actually try to make sure that your bass elements stand out on their own and are not hidden by each other, or you don't, they just seem to work? Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions around these techniques, again, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'd love to help wherever I can. If you like what you see here, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Hopefully the video has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.